mine and my daddy's. His daddy was a legendary businessman. Bobby graduated from Webb School in Knoxville, continued his school at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where he was a member of the SAE fraternity. Bobby later graduated and went on to serve as general manager for his father's company, M.S. McClellan. Bobby married the love of his life in 2006, Julie. Bobby also served his community by supporting the local animal shelters, national parks, and recreation spaces, and being a loud and proud supporter of the Tennessee Volunteers. I spoke to my dear friends Frank Nystrom and Tommy Seiler about Bobby and his life, and it was just the trouble with this job, Mr. Speaker, is that too many times we miss events, and I was not able to make it to his funeral because of things up here, and I miss Bobby. He was a good man. Hope everybody joins me in honoring Bobby by speaking out to maybe a beloved friend or a family member that you haven't spoken to in a while, because when they're gone, Mr. Speaker, they are gone. And remember, Bobby used to say, there is no woo in Rocky Top. And I had to explain, you would not understand, Mr. Speaker. So thank you, and I yield the remainder of my time.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Minnesota seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize Adena Togel, a fearless young leader who's working hard to save lives. Adena was just 12 years old herself when she suffered a severe allergy attack that almost took her life. But it wasn't caused by the food that she ate. It was from a medication she had been prescribed. Unfortunately, unlike its requirements for food labels, the FDA doesn't currently have a standardized system for disclosing the presence of common allergens in medications, information that could save lives. As Adena's representative and as a doctor who's cared for patients for more than 20 years, I want to make sure that no one is in danger of a life-threatening allergy attack simply because they took their medication. That's why I'm introducing the Adena Act to make this common sense change to allergen information on drug labels a reality. And I'm proud this bill is strongly bipartisan. My colleagues on both sides of the aisle agree it's a no-brainer. I'm hopeful that together we can make this country safer and healthier. And I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Adena and her family for your deep dedication, your tireless advocacy, and for all you're doing for millions of Americans with allergies to make their lives safer. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor an American hero in every sense of the word. It is my distinct privilege and honor to recognize Charlie Dunn in the congressional record for his celebration of his 106th birthday. Charlie was born on May 27, 1919, and grew up on the farm near Hickory Flat. He spent his early years assisting his father as they grew cotton, peanuts, corn, and sweet potatoes. After the stock market crash of 1929 and the ensuing depression, Duncan relocated with his family, and he stopped attending school to work full-time to help support his family. In 1944, Mr. Duncan was drafted into the United States Army and went through basic and advanced training in Virginia and Texas. From there, he was sent to England, where he fought with General George S. Patton's Third Army as a combat engineer. He delivered temporary bridges to the front line, repaired and rebuilt damaged bridges, and demolished German military infrastructure along the way. Upon his return home, Mr. Duncan worked as a craftsman, specializing in staircase banisters, and was active in the real estate market. Throughout his life, he has served as a community leader and an exemplary figure who has handled some of the most trying events in American history with valor and grit. Mr. Duncan exemplifies all the values we aspire to as Americans: duty, sacrifice, reliability, and bravery. Happy birthday, sir, and best wishes for a fantastic year ahead. Semper Fidelis.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to wish everyone a joyful and proud Pride Month. In Houston, pride runs deep. We hosted one of the first nighttime parades in the country, and today it is the 4th largest in the nation. And it's not just a parade. Groups like Fundación Latinoamericana de Acción Social, Legacy Community Health, and the Montrose Center are doing the work every day, making sure that our LGBTQIA+ neighbors have care, housing, community, and support. That's what we should be focused on. There's so much good that we can be doing. Instead, my Republican colleagues are using their power to bully and target trans kids, children who just want to be safe, make friends, and be themselves. Those kids show more bravery than many of my colleagues here in this chamber. We should all learn from them. To every young person watching, I see you, I hear you, I will fight for you today and every day. Because in Texas, when we say all, that means all. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the distinguished gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate the life of Marcy May Pin. Marcy was a lifelong resident of Ohio's 2nd Congressional District and a beloved wife, mother, aunt, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Marcy passed away on May 13, 2025 at the age of 82. Marcy always put service above herself and served as a cook at the Brooks Yates School. Those who knew her well say Marcy never met a stranger and had a wonderful sense of humor that put everyone around her at ease. Beyond her love of family and her kindness to others, Marcy will be remembered as the queen of Pee Wee football. She served as a founding member and treasurer of the Pickaway County Pee Wee Football Board, working to ensure that every child who wanted to participate could do so. Throughout her more than 50 years of involvement in Pee Wee football, Marcy earned the love and affection of the youth in her community. Many called her mom and knew they could always count on her to be there for them. The greatness of America lies in ordinary citizens like Marcy, who became part of something bigger than themselves. Let us all work to follow her example by being kind to one another and leading service-oriented lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with pride to recognize the Coachella Football Club, an awesome soccer organization from California's 25th district that is lifting up young athletes and inspiring our entire community. This past year, the Coachella Football Club's premier team, our semi-pro squad, dominated the field. They were SoCal East season champions and went undefeated in the divisional playoffs. Coached by Aldo Caro and Octavio Bustillos, this team played one of their best seasons yet, and we are so proud of them. And they're not alone. The Coachella Football Club's Academy's 17 and under boys team also had a phenomenal run, winning the Fall 2024 and Spring 2025 SoCal East Championships without a single loss. Thanks to coaches Manuel Montano and Carlos Bustillos, they have set the bar for excellence, teamwork, and sportsmanship. A special congrats to Coachella Football Club owner Luis Bustillos, who founded the team with a vision to help players turn their dreams into reality. He calls the club a dream factory and continues to inspire his players to dream big. To every Coachella Football Club player and coach, thank you for representing our district with grit, heart, and pride. Your success reminds us all what is possible when talent meets dedication. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the life and legacy of John Pharaoh, a beloved member of the East Stroudsburg-Monroe County, Pennsylvania community who passed away on May 13, 2025. John was born in Sassano, Italy, and dedicated his life to service, community, and family. He was a devoted husband to Josephine for 51 years, a proud father, and a cherished friend to many. John's commitment to his community was evident through his active participation in local organizations and his unwavering support and initiatives that aim to improve the lives of those around him. He was the chairman of the Monroe County Municipal Waste Management Authority and an active leader with the Boy Scouts Troop 83, East Stroudsburg. He truly lived the American dream. I had the pleasure of hosting him here in Washington, D.C. for my swearing in, as well as Representative Ryan McKenzie and Senator Dave McCormick's. His kindness, generosity, and steadfast dedication left an indelible mark on all who had the privilege of knowing him. John's legacy serves as a testament to the profound impact one individual can have through a life devoted to service and compassion. As we remember John Pharaoh, let us celebrate his life by emulating his commitment to community and service. May his memory continue to inspire all of us and make a positive difference in the lives around us. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to stand up for the community of Crystal Lake, Illinois, who, along with over 100 communities nationwide, just had a $5.6 million student mental health program abruptly canceled by the Trump administration. This funding, which passed with supports of both Republicans and Democrats under the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, was created in response to the Uvalde school shooting to address the growing youth mental health crisis. I think we all remember the Republican talking point at the time that we don't have a gun problem, we have a mental health problem. Well, fine. And with this grant, the Crystal Lake District 47 was able to hire trained mental health professionals and give 7,100 students access to mental health care. But canceling this grant will disrupt critical mental health care for students that are already receiving support, weaken the district's ability to identify and intervene in early warning signs of distress, trauma, or potential violence. It undermines years of progress made in breaking the stigma around mental health, and with suicide being the second leading cause of death for children aged 10 to 14, gutting this funding will be life-threatening. Our kids' safety and well-being should not be a partisan issue. I urge the administration to reverse these harmful cuts. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Missouri seek recognition?
Seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor the life of my constituent, 12-year-old Brody Jacob Holt, a beloved son, a loyal friend, and an admired brother. Brody's life was tragically cut short just weeks ago in an accident that has left his family and our community grieving. He was full of life, always smiling, telling jokes, and bringing joy to those around him. He loved sports, dirt bikes, learning new things, and had even dreamed of becoming president someday. But most of all, Brody had a servant's heart. Just days before the accident, he told his mom that he wanted to be an organ donor. And in his final act of kindness, Brody gave his heart, literally, to save the life of an 8-year-old girl. To his parents, you raised an extraordinary young man. May his memory be a blessing, and may you find comfort in knowing that Brody is watching over you from above. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Speaker, ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize the extraordinary resilience of the students and educators of Springfield Middle School in Lacoma, North Carolina. At the beginning of the school year, a tornado tore through the community, causing significant damage to the school. I recall walking through classrooms, desks all over the place, the roof removed, gone, ripped apart, but yet the American flag continued to stand. Early decisions had to be made, and one in particular, whether the students would even be able to stay at the school or be separated to go to other schools, but they insisted to stay together. As the school year now comes to an end, I made another visit to the school, and the students at Springfield Middle School, they had an incredible school year. They were able to do this only because so many came together to make it happen. As Principal Kelly Thomas said, what could have broken us instead brought us closer together. to the educators, staff, and greater Lacoma community. Your dedication is a shining example of the best of us and who we are as Americans. And to the students, oh, those Wildcats, you are a true inspiration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to address this body for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the remarkable life of John Thrasher, who climbed so many professional mountains. But instead of resting on his laurels, John helped other people climb their mountains. And while many called him speaker, senator, chairman, and president, I was fortunate to call him friend. From the battlefields of Vietnam, where John was a decorated war hero, to the halls of the Florida State Legislature, where John was elected Speaker of the Florida House and State Senator, John was a born leader. So it came to no surprise that in 2014, John became the 15th president of Florida State University. Beside him and his many accomplishments was his wife, Jean, the heart of his world. Their boundless joy for their children and grandchildren was a true testament to the family they built together. Mr. Speaker, we honor John as a mentor to me, and a man of purpose and integrity. John, your work here is done, but your legacy will endure. Godspeed, my friend. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition?
Address the chair for 1 minute and to extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss fatherhood. We must honor the amazing fathers throughout these buildings and across the nation. As a Congresswoman, founder of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence, and chair of the U.S. Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys, I continue to celebrate and uplift fathers. I proudly join my colleague, Representative Burgess, in a bipartisan fashion to promote building stronger families through fatherhood. Still, too many families are broken due to state and federal policies resulting in mass incarceration. We must address the many facets of public policy that hinder Black fatherhood. And organizations like the Jack Brewer Foundation play such a vital role in assuring fathers and father figures have the tools they need to raise our children. So today, we proudly recognize the Jack Brewer Foundation of Florida. It's all about prevention, not detention, and that starts with all of us. And I yield back.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the career and honor the retirement of a remarkable public servant, Fire Chief Jeff Willis of the Big Bear Fire Department. Chief Willis has had a career of over 40 years in providing fire protection services to our community. I first met Chief Willis early in my own career in public service when I was the chairman of the Big Bear Lake Fire Protection District, and already Chief Willis was an extraordinary leader. I learned so much, not only about fire protection, but about leadership from this man. Jeff went on to become not only a leader in our community, but across the state of California, commanding multiple fire incidents across the state. We owe Jeff a debt of gratitude for his long public service to our community. We celebrate his career, we honor his retirement, and we wish him best luck as he enters this next phase of his career. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize the exceptional leadership of Fredericksburg Public School Superintendent Dr. Marcy Catlett. Dr. Catlett has been a trailblazer in implementing forward-thinking strategies to strengthen her students' well-being. In the summer of 2024, she launched an initiative to curb her cell phone usage in schools by requiring her students to store their phones for the entire school day. As a lawmaker in Congress leading the effort to remove phones from schools during from bell to bell nationwide, I'm grateful for Dr. Catlett's commitment to helping our students unplug. And as a father of 2 kids, I know the importance of creating a learning environment that nurtures the academic success and mental health of our young folks. Collaborating with educators like Dr. Catlett has been critical to working in our work to build a stronger future for Virginia's next generation of leaders. I extend my deepest gratitude to her for advancing these critical initiatives. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House 1 minute and provide to extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Civil Georgia News of Tbilisi reports the corrupt anti-American Georgian Dream Party released a statement against democracy. Quote, every single politician who makes anti-Georgian statements is a member of the deep state network, and Joe Wilson is one of the most serious manifestations, end of quote. The Georgian Dream Prime Minister has condemned President Trump with untrue charges. America stands with the Georgian people and the legitimate President Salome Zurishvili supporting fair elections. American support for the Megabari Act with a vote of 349 to 42, 90% of Congress for the people of Georgia. The act provides a choice to abandon the dictator Ivan Vashvili. In conclusion, God bless our troops as the global war on terrorism continues. Trump is reinstituting existing laws to protect American families with peace through strength, revealing war criminal Putin lies, insulting Trump, defaming Trump, with murderous rocket attacks on Ukrainian civilians again today. Congratulations to the people of Georgia for and all the people of Germany for German Chancellor Merz' success meeting with President Trump this week. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Vermont seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, our defense secretary should be one of the busiest people on the planet, defending our country, leading nearly 3 million courageous Americans in our armed forces. It's an awesome responsibility. But this week, Pete Hegseth spent his precious time deciding that a naval ship named after a veteran is just too gay for him. Harvey Milk was an American hero, a civil rights leader, the first openly gay official in California. He served his country in the Navy. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He was someone who stood up for the rights and dignities of all. And he was assassinated while serving in public office. His memory is worthy of dignity and respect. Removing his name from a ship is small and it's petty, and is obviously an attempt to erase the history of anyone who shows resistance to this administration. That is what autocrats and authoritarians do. Since Secretary Hegseth took the helm, the Department of Defense has been fraught with national security risks and constant drama. I urge him to stop spending his time renaming ships because he wants to pretend that we don't exist. He should do his damn job. I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor a constituent of mine, Mr. Joel Willis, for his recent retirement after 45 years of serving this community in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. Mr. Willis epitomizes strong leadership and an unwavering work ethic, earning him this position of CEO of Epworth by the Sea. Through nearly 50 years of hard work at Epworth, Mr. Willis transformed what was once a humble motel into a state-of-the-art retreat, tourist destination, and host to Christian conferences. Epworth by the Sea undertook an incredible expansion under Mr. Willis's leadership, adding over 135 rooms and 50 employees, fostering the growth of St. Simon's Island. Not only has his efforts strengthened the local economy, but Mr. Willis has made it Epworth's mission to continue giving back, as shown through its history of accommodating church-related and nonprofit groups. Mr. Willis has exemplified the best of hard work and Southern hospitality, and it is an honor to recognize him in his service to the community of St. Simon's Island. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California seek recognition?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to oppose the administration's cuts to critical gun violence prevention programs. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in deep solidarity with the innovators of ceasefire and the violence interrupters and the community organizations around this country that spend every day, hour after hour, working on the ground in our communities to stop gun violence. I thank you for your work. It is so critical and so needed at a time when the Trump administration has announced cuts of $500 million to community violence intervention organizations and funding opportunities directly from the Department of Justice. Over $1 billion of those dollars in gun violence prevention funding from schools, from the Department of Education. Make it make sense. Now organizations like Youth Alive in Oakland, California will not have the funding that they need that is so critical in this moment to do the work of violence interruption on our streets in conjunction with law enforcement and community members who have lost loved ones to violence. June is Gun Violence Prevention Month, Mr. Speaker, and we cannot stop this work in decreasing gun violence on our streets and in our communities. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Colonel Len Litton, a decorated combat pilot, national security expert, and proud son of North Carolina who has spent his entire life in service to our nation. Born in Banner Elk and raised in Shelby, Len joined the Air Force out of the Citadel. Over a 25-year career, he flew the A-10 and B-2s, trained the next generation of pilots, and led some of the most complex and high-stakes missions in our arsenal. At every level, he brought discipline, precision, and an unshakable sense of duty. When his time in uniform ended, his service didn't. In the White House, the Pentagon, and across the Department of Defense, Colonel Litton became the go-to leader for problems that demanded results. Most recently, he led the effort to eliminate DEI mandates from the Pentagon's personnel system, refocusing it on what matters: merit, unity, and mission readiness. Colonel Litton never sought credit. He just did the job, quietly, effectively, and always in the best interests of our country. I thank him for a lifetime of selfless service, and I wish him fair winds and Godspeed. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor the 9 black worshipers murdered at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. June 17th marks the 10th year anniversary of that horrific act by a white supremacist. Representative Wendell Gilliard has introduced a hate crime bill. It still hasn't been passed. We must pass it. Today isn't just about remembering Emanuel 9. It's also about confronting the attacks on black history. President Trump called African American History Museum oppressive and gave Vice President Vance the power to erase black history. 44 states now are debating laws to limit the teaching of black history. One Pennsylvania district even banned children's books about Rosa Parks and Dr. King. As we honor Emanuel 9, we must stand up for teaching honest Black history. I think of my friend, Representative J.A. Moore, who lost his sister, Myra Thompson, today. His call is not just to remove the symbols of hate, but to dismantle the systems of hate that Dr. King talked about. Let the Emanuel 9 inspire us today to teach honestly about Black history and confront the systems of hate.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
Seeking unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 81 years ago today, American troops, along with British, Canadian, and many others, stormed the beaches of Normandy. They faced intense gunfire, landmines, and a real chance they wouldn't make it home. Actually, over 4,000 didn't, as witnessed by the beautiful cemetery that oversees those beaches in France. Of course, it took grit, sacrifice, a deep belief, and an incredible assemblage of material and the ability to keep it secret when all that machinery, when all that material was assembled just above the white cliffs of Dover in England. If any of you ever watched the movie called Saving Private Ryan, there's actual soldiers that were there at the time that say that's one of the most accurate depictions you would ever see of how nasty and how bad that was. Could you imagine that front door of that landing craft opening and the hail of gunfire was put upon those guys? Yet they went anyway, because they're required to, because it's a duty, because they had to turn back one of the greatest threats that the world had ever seen and what Nazi Germany had been foisting upon for 5 years up to that point. We owe them so much. And as Captain Miller said towards the end of that movie to Private Ryan himself, earn this. We all as citizens, when we remember on Memorial Day, remember this day, and be good citizens and uphold what the founders gave us this country, we earn this. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Wisconsin seek recognition?
I'd like to ask, make an unanimous request to speak for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
I stand today to defend President Trump in one of his initial requests for next year's budget. One of the goals of the Biden administration, of course, could destroy the country by having unfettered immigration, but also to divide America by groups. And part of that was when he passed one of his big bills, he put in there a American Hispanic Museum. This is consistent with the Democrat policy of trying to divide America. Our motto, put in place in 1782, was E pluribus unum, out of many one. The Democrats are trying to teach people that they should always walk around hanging on to where their ancestors came from. President Trump is right not to fund a National Hispanic Museum. The wonderful accomplishments of the Hispanic Americans can be placed in other museums, including the Museum of American History, without having every ethnic group have their own separate museum. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. The chair lays before the House the following enrolled bill.
Senate 160, an act to amend the Wildfire Suppression Aircraft Transfer Act of 1996 to reauthorize the sale by the Department of Defense of aircraft and parts for wildfire suppression purposes and for the purposes.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. Proud to be an American, proud of what this country stands for, but I also rise as a person who is censured. I have been censured, but I have not been silenced. So I rise as a unbought, unbossed, unafraid, liberated Democrat. And as such, I rise to speak on a topic today that I believe to be most important to the American people, most important to posterity, most important to the direction of the country, most important to who we are. The topic is about Congress and why Congress is the court of last resort for an authoritarian president. Why Congress is the court of last resort for an authoritarian president. Let me start by saying this that I think is exceedingly important. There are many among us who would manage authoritarianism. They would want to find a way to work with it, to become a part of it if it benefits them, to make it something that is acceptable to many of the people in the classes and perhaps some of the people in the masses. I am not one of the persons who would do this. I believe that authoritarianism, Mr. Speaker, must not be managed. It must be eliminated. This country was founded upon the basic premise that it would be a democratic republic where you elect your representatives to vote for you. This is a democracy. And as such, in this democratic republic, I choose to stand and fight this movement toward authoritarianism. I stand to do so because the greatness of America is not going to be found among a very few who have power concentrated in their hands, or in a single person who has power concentrated in his hands. That's not where the greatness of America is achieved. The greatness of America is achieved by the people having the power and the people making the decisions, by having a Supreme Court that is respected, that is honored, by having a judiciary that is respected, by having a Congress that is respected, by avoiding what could become authoritarianism that metamorphoses into something even greater in harm to this country than the authoritarianism we face today. So I rise to indicate that Congress is the court of last resort for an authoritarian president. And here's why. It's the court of last resort because when an authoritarian issues executive orders and expects them to be honored even when the courts disagree, when an authoritarian believes that his orders supersede, supplant, if you will, the rule of law, supersede what has become commonplace in terms of understanding the rule of law in this country. When an authoritarian will defy federal courts and including the Supreme Court, then we have to conclude that the Supreme Court may not be the court of last resort as it should be for an authoritarian president, someone who is assuming power that he should not assume, with executive orders that cannot change the Constitution. When you have a president who, by executive order, believes that he can remove people from the country without due process, and when this president is told that due process must be accorded people before you can take this extreme action, and when this president is told not only must there be due process, but if you believe that the court has made a ruling that is inappropriate, that the court has made a mistake, that you must still honor that court order and appeal, that the appellate courts will then take charge of what you believe to be an incorrect decision by the courts. And when you see a president saying to the country that a court that has issued an order that he does not agree with, but contends is inappropriate for various and sundry reasons, when you see that president say that the judge that issued that order should be impeached, you're now moving into authoritarianism. But when that president then sits with others in his cabinet and they are caught on national TV indicating why they can defy the federal court's orders after having been told that you have to appeal, after having been told that you cannot do what you have done, after having been told that you have to facilitate the return of someone that you have improperly, and according to what members of this administration have said, removed from the country by mistake, then you have to bring that person the relief necessary for that person to raise his hand and say, you got the wrong person. For that person to say, I want my rights of due process under the law in this country. So we have a president who believes that his orders, his executive orders, exceed and supersede the orders of federal courts. How do I know? Because he has not returned a person to this country that he was told to facilitate the return of, such that he could receive due process, or just facilitate such that this person could get due process. It hasn't happened. The lower courts have told him at the federal level. The Supreme Court has told him. And the evidence now exists that he understands what facilitate means, because there was a second person who was removed without due process, removed to another country without due process. And that person is being brought back because the judge in a federal court said, you have to facilitate the return. So they know what facilitate means. They are just being defiant. They're just ignoring the orders of the federal courts. They are flouting the orders of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Make no mistake about it, we are now dealing with an authoritarian president that I choose not to manage. I choose to eliminate the authoritarianism. I don't want us to try to find a way to get along with an authoritarian. And if the Supreme Court cannot manage this authoritarian president to the extent that he would cease and desist and obey the court's orders, and if an authoritarian president now has total control of the Republicans who represent this House and the Senate, total control of them. So they're not going to be able to do anything because he manages their affairs. They have become people who look for a sense of direction. He's become their North Star. He's become the means by which they conclude that they will go this way or they'll move in that direction. So they can't do anything because they have surrendered their sovereignty. They've surrendered their power to make judicious decisions to an authoritarian president. Supreme Court can't stop him. Republicans who control the House and Senate won't stop him. We have an authoritarian president. And when you have an authoritarian president, you do have a court of last resort. The Constitution, Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, makes it explicitly clear that we can impeach. And we can impeach for this type of behavior, not in these exact words. Uses language that we're all familiar with, high crimes or misdemeanors, treason, bribery. But we have an authoritarian president who is defying the courts, who does not respect the separation of powers, an authoritarian president who would demean and minimize the role of the judiciary in our system of governance. With such an authoritarian president, impeachment, and this congressional court of last resort is within the power of all 435 members of the House, because the congressional court of last resort has to have a prosecutor. A prosecutor, any one of the 435 can become the prosecutor once you see that impeachable actions are taking place. Any one of us can become the prosecutor. The prosecutor will have what we will have called the equivalent of a grand jury. That will be the rest of the members of the House of Representatives. 435 of us. Some of us can act as prosecutors. Doesn't have to be one, can be more than one, can be many. As many as would want to sign a resolution to impeach. Impeachment, congressional court of last resort. That's where we are now. This is the room where the congressional court of last resort will be convened. And it is convened here to hear a prosecutor, a member of this august body, not known as a prosecutor, but I'm saying it to you such that you can understand this process and see that it is akin to something else that you really do understand. So this prosecutor, this person, this member of Congress will have to stand and read these articles of impeachment. And this is done now because, remember, the Supreme Court can't control this authoritarian president, and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle won't control this authoritarian president. They have the power, but they won't. So impeachment in this congressional court of last resort. Congress is where the court of last resort lies. I'm familiar with impeachment. I understand the process. And I want you to know that it is imminent. A vote takes place with this grand jury that I call to your attention, which would be the members of Congress. We need but only a majority of the member of Congress to vote in favor of impeachment, and a president can be removed from office. An authoritarian president can be removed from office. If you don't like authoritarianism and you believe that you have an authoritarian president, then you would vote for the articles of impeachment. Now, is there any proof that there are people who don't like authoritarianism and who would vote in theory for impeachment? Well, yes. Before the election that brought Donald John Trump to the presidency this time, before he was sworn in by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, there were many among us, and I am one of the many, who talked about this very topic, prognosticated this very behavior that we're seeing. Not the exact behavior, but behavior that would be indicative of a person becoming an authoritarian. There were some who said he would be a fascist. There were some who said he would be a dictator. The point is, there are many people who are members of this House who made this prognostication. And what it is absolutely amazing is that many of them who made these prognostications, who have seen their prognostications become a reality, many of them may not vote to impeach. But I'm going to give you what I believe is a rationale. I think this is a vote of conscience. People have to vote their conscience. If your conscience tells you no, then I think you should follow your conscience. I cannot, in good conscience, say the things that I've said about this authoritarian president, see it become a reality, and then take no action. I cannot in good conscience. But there are people who can, in good conscience, do this. And I have no ill feelings toward them. I don't count the votes. I count what is necessary to be done. And it is necessary for us to take action to remove an authoritarian president from office. And the only way it can be done is right here in this chamber. Someone has to act as a prosecutor and bring the articles of impeachment to the attention of this august body, at which time there will be a vote on these articles. And as some people will vote to table, there's always going to be a vote to table. Now, my colleagues on the other side, some of them have alleged that, though this is a great thing, this is a great thing, we're going to have impeachment again. This is a great thing. Let them bring it on. Well, if you truly believe this, then you vote for the articles. You vote against tabling, because there will be a motion to table. So you vote against tabling. All of my Republican colleagues who are saying this, you vote against tabling. And then see what the other side does, since you are absolutely convinced that this is going to be a benefit to an authoritarian president. It is not going to be a benefit. We will take that vote. Those who vote to table will be voting against the articles of impeachment. Those who vote against tabling will be voting for the articles of impeachment. I said to you, I have some experience in dealing with this. I am the person who laid the foundation for President Donald John Trump's impeachment when he was impeached the first time around. I am using a personal pronoun only to communicate, but the truth is there were other persons who were engaged in this process with me. I want to tell you about these other persons. I have here something that has been removed from the wall of my office. It is something that indicates who the persons were that participated favorably, meaning indicating there should be an impeachment, when the first articles of impeachment were filed. This is on the wall in my office. The press assumed that it would be only Al Green. They were wrong. They may be right this time. It may just be only Al Green. I will stand alone, because when it's a question of conscience, it's better to stand alone than not stand at all. So the press thought that there would be probably Al Green and maybe one or two others, which may be the case this time. But believe me, it will not deter me. But what is interesting is I have this on my wall. And by the way, many of the people who are listed supported HRES 646, many of them who are listed here, they have a similar document in offices, and they will have it on their coffee tables. And when people would come in, because this became such an important issue, they were proud to display this and say, yes, I voted to impeach. Yes, I did. That was important. It's going to become important again. Make no mistake about it. It will be important again. And I'm not going to name all of the persons on this first article of a resolution for impeachment, but I would tell you that there were 58. They were known as the first 58. And there's one person that I will mention because I'm proud, and he was proud to have associated with these articles of impeachment. And I remember talking to him right in this area about impeachment. I will not divulge the entirety of the conversation. But I'm proud to say this. The Honorable John Lewis has his name on these articles of impeachment. The Honorable John Lewis. First 58. But the first 58 was not sufficient, and I knew that it wouldn't be. By the way, whenever I say I, assume that I'm saying we, because there were persons who were engaged in helping me. I knew that it would not be enough. And I knew that we would have to continue to build on this to generate a mass such that impeachment could no longer be ignored. Because many of the people who were opposed to impeachment were making it clear that certain things would have to happen before there could be impeachment. You'd have to have bipartisan support for impeachment. You'd have to have, well, let's just say certain things. If I say more, I'll probably say enough such that you'll know who I'm talking about. And I don't care to mention names at this time, but if I'm forced to, I will. But so we moved forward with a second impeachment. This was H.Res. 705. Many members of Congress had something similar to this in their offices. It could have been a very large display that would unfold, and it was on coffee tables. It was placed in various places in congressional offices. I placed this on the wall in my congressional office, along with the other article that I just called to your attention. And this was H.Res. 705. It did not grow by what some would consider a very large number, but it did move to 66 members of Congress. 66 with H.Res. 705. And the reason I know members are in possession of these documents that I've called to your attention that were displayed is because I sent them to the members. I sent members a thank you, as we customarily do here. And it was something that they could display in the office. And I had many members and many people to say that it was a good idea. Continuing. Knowing that 66 was not enough, we brought articles before the Congress again. And this time, the number hit what I call a critical mass. It caused people who were antithetical to the idea to embrace the idea. And by the way, I never thought that it had to be the exact articles that I presented. I never thought it had to be that, but I knew that there had to be an impeachment. And these articles that I presented had to do very much with invidious discrimination. Invidious discrimination, something I'll say more about later. So this time, we had 95 people who supported the articles. H.Res. 498. Now, what's important about H.Res. 498 is this. When you add the persons who supported H.Res. 498 with the persons who supported the other articles, you then move beyond 100 people, well beyond 100 people who are supporting impeachment. Some supported one set of articles and some did not, but then they supported another. So you have H.Res. 498 with 95 persons supporting the articles of impeachment. Friends, there is but one solution to an authoritarian president that cannot be controlled by the Supreme Court because he flouts the orders of the Supreme Court, that won't be controlled by members of his party because he has control over the party. There's but one solution, and there's but one place where that solution can manifest itself, and that is the House of Representatives. So Congress has become the court of last resort for an authoritarian president. And as such, I pledged to many before today, and I pledge to the nation today, that in this month, there will be a vote on the floor of this House, a vote to advance articles of impeachment this month. It is necessary, and it will be done. I truly believe in what the country stands for. I know that it has not always lived up to the expectations written in the great documents that support what the country stands for. I know that it has not always lived up to these expectations. But I also know this. It's a country where I can, with due process, with free speech, with freedom of religion. It's a country where I can vote. And it's a country where I can fight to make the difference so that it can live up to these great ideals expressed in these great documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. And I'm going to fight to maintain the right to fight. That's what this is all about. Not fighting in the sense that I'm going to go out and harm someone, not fighting in this sense that I'm going to use some means of using physicality. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm going to fight with peaceful protest. I believe in peaceful protest. I do not in any way condone persons who go out and harm other people. And I have said as much. And yes, I get all of the backlash that others get when they say as much. But I absolutely will continue to say peaceful protest is the way to make change that can make the difference. So I can do it through peaceful protest, and I'm going to do it. That's the kind of fighting that I'm talking about, peaceful protesting. But I can also do it with litigation. So we have protestation, litigation. I've signed on to many briefs, and I will continue to do so. Protestation, litigation. But we also have something else. We have legislation. That's what articles of impeachment are. Legislation. Protestation, absolutely. I will never give up my right to protest. I'm going to fight to maintain that right to protest. Protestation, litigation. I believe in the court system. And then, of course, this whole notion of legislation. These are the means by which we can make the difference. I assure my friends, my colleagues, persons, this is official notice. There will be a vote on articles to impeach Donald John Trump, who is now President of the United States. I do it because conscience dictates that this be done, and it has become a moral imperative that we have to proceed with. Now, I close with this. This is something that came to my attention just recently. There are people who believe, I think, that I will be intimidated. They believe that I will be intimidated. Now, these are people other than those who've already made their many threats that have not intimidated me. But there's a new movement afoot. There's a movement afoot now to do what cannot be done as they see it fast enough through the electoral process, meaning my removal from office. They don't think that the electoral process works effectively, if you will, for them. I was saying efficaciously, but let's just say effectively, for them. And the governor of my state, while I am in trial currently defending the 9th Congressional District. I've been in trial for many years, so this is nothing unusual to defend this district, to keep this district. It has been difficult. Lots of money has been spent just fighting to maintain the 9th Congressional District. But the governor of my state has now decided that it is appropriate, according to the sources that have called it to my attention, and many have. Many persons in the legislative body in the state of Texas have called this to my attention, has established what's called a redistricting commission or committee. And with this redistricting commission or committee, the governor is going to try, as I'm being told, to draw the lines for these congressional districts so that it will be either difficult or impossible for me to get reelected. So here's my message to those who would stoop to this level of political shenanigans, as I see it. Here's my message to you. The people who elected me are more important than my being reelected. I'm going to stand up for the people who elected me. My reelection is not the issue. You can take me out. There'll be another Al Green. There always is always going to be one more. The world seems to be put together such that there's always someone who will stand up. So you can take me out, but you're not going to intimidate me. And I'm saying this to the governor of the state of Texas. Do what you may. Redraw the lines such that I can never get reelected. But I guarantee you this, as long as I'm here, I may be censured, but I won't be silenced. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this last week, a local newspaper published a letter to the editor claiming that by fighting against Governor Newsom's policies, I was not serving my constituents. I very strongly disagree with that statement. The fact is that we have a governor whose policies have turned the greatest state in the country into the most popular state to leave. We have a governor who believes that because he has a supermajority in the legislature, he can run roughshod over the rights of Californians and continue to cause the quality of life in our state to decline. But here in Congress, we have tools to fight back. And I set out at the beginning of this year to use whatever tools are available to fight back against Governor Newsom's most harmful policies, and I believe that is precisely how I can best serve not only my constituents, but all Californians, and indeed all Americans, because the governor has himself said that his failed policies are, quote, a model for the nation. So I wanted to go through the 10 areas, the 10 radical failed policies of Governor Newsom that have prevailed in California that we set out to reverse, to fight, to overturn, or to at least where we can mitigate the harm. And I want to give a progress report on where we are with respect to each of those 10 items. Very quickly, the 10 are, number 1, crazy EV mandates. Number 2, free Medicaid for illegal immigrants. Number 3, out-of-control homelessness. Number 4, reckless crime policies. Number 5, the high-speed rail disaster. Number 6, the sanctuary state disgrace. Number 7, failing public schools. Number 8, man-made water shortages. Number 9, catastrophic wildfires. And number 10, chaotic elections. The good news is we have made significant progress when it comes to each of those 10 items. When it comes to EV mandates, just about a week and a half ago, the Senate followed in the House's footsteps and passed my resolution to overturn Gavin Newsom's ban on gas-powered vehicles. Any day now, President Trump will sign my resolution into law, and Gavin Newsom's unworkable gas car ban where he wanted to dictate what millions of Californians drive will be reversed, and Californians will be able to drive the car of their choice. Not only that, we are reversing Newsom's EV mandate when it comes to trucks, and we have already seen the reversal of his mandates when it comes to trains, when it comes to buses, when it comes to lawnmowers, when it comes to leaf blowers. Number two, on free Medi-Cal for illegal immigrants, a policy that no other state in the country has, a policy that has literally driven our Medicaid system to the point of insolvency. I introduced the No Medicaid for Illegal Immigrants Act. We have been applying pressure in every way we can, and finally, Gavin Newsom has bowed to that pressure. He has announced that he is sunsetting his own policy, ending it at the conclusion of this year. Now, of course, he still has not gone far enough because he wants to keep it going for those who have already enrolled. But this is a significant victory in forcing the governor's hand. When it comes to homelessness, where California has by far the worst homelessness in the country, where the population of homeless has skyrocketed during Newsom's tenure as governor, where he spent $24 billion and a state audit determined that he lost track of the money as homelessness again continued to go up. And what's worse is we had this decision from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that said that local communities weren't able to do anything about homelessness. The decision said you're not allowed to regulate camping, you're not allowed to regulate homeless encampments in public spaces, even in front of schools or in parks. Well, last year we had a significant victory before the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn that lower court decision. And here's the thing. Newsom wanted to keep the Ninth Circuit decision in place, whereas I advocated in an amicus brief that we reverse that decision and we restore the power of local communities to regulate homelessness in a common sense way. Because of that victory before the Supreme Court, you are now seeing across California order returning to our public spaces. Even far left, very heavily Democratic jurisdictions like Fremont, like San Francisco, have acted on this new ability provided by the Supreme Court decision that I advocated for to clean up their streets, and we're starting to actually see the situation improve. Okay. Number four, when it comes to crime, we had an enormous victory last November when it came to Prop 36, an initiative that I helped to lead and qualify for the ballot that has made crime illegal again in California by restoring some basic consequences for theft and open drug use and dealing fentanyl. Now, of course, Gavin Newsom and the supermajority in California fought against Prop 36 each and every step of the way. They even concocted corrupt schemes to take it off the ballot and deny Californians the opportunity to vote. But each and every one of their schemes failed. And despite Governor Newsom leading the opposition to this initiative to make crime illegal again in California, it passed overwhelmingly. It passed with a higher percentage than any initiative on the ballot. It passed in each and every one of California's 58 counties, even Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris's San Francisco. And as a result, you are seeing law enforcement throughout California that now has a new ability to restore order, to arrest people who commit crimes, and we are starting to see real improvements across the state that we have not seen in a very long time. Number five, when it comes to high-speed rail, the biggest public infrastructure failure in United States history, which Gavin Newsom has continued to pour billions and billions of dollars into. At the beginning of this year, I introduced legislation to say that it shall receive no more federal funding. I then joined Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy at Union Station in Los Angeles to announce an investigation, an audit, a compliance review by the Federal Department of Transportation into California high-speed rail, into the billions it has received in federal funding. And just this week, we got the results of that audit, finding that California is woefully out of compliance and that there is no viable path forward for the project. I believe that with this federal money now stopped, this is the beginning of the end of the high-speed rail disaster in California. Number 6, when it comes to the sanctuary state, we have taken a number of measures. I introduced a bill, the No Sanctuary for Criminals Act. I also introduced the Freedom to Cooperate Act to allow local authorities to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. We've also seen a number of executive orders making it very clear that sanctuary jurisdictions are unacceptable and are in defiance of federal law. And in California, U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley has found a way to circumvent effectively the sanctuary state using the powers of federal law enforcement. So we have come a long way towards ending the disgrace of the sanctuary state in California. When it comes to California's failing public schools, which are just about the worst in the entire country, we have the lowest literacy rate of any state in the country. We continue to see attacks on high-performing schools from Governor Newsom and his enablers in the legislature. We also have some good news on this front. I'm chair of the subcommittee, the House Subcommittee on K-12 Education, and we have been fighting to give Americans school choice. And in this reconciliation bill, H.R. 1, there is a provision that would ignite a school choice revolution across America by providing tax credits that can then be used to allow students to attend a school of their choice. We believe this could enable meaningful school choice for 2 million students across the country. And I'm also continuing to advocate for the High Quality Charter School Act, a bill I've introduced that would enable a similar measure of school choice for students in the public school system through charter schools, potentially tripling the number of students attending charter schools across America. Number 8, when it comes to the absurdity of California's man-made water crisis, where, for example, when we had heavy storms in California that caused 20,000 cubic feet of water to be cascading out of Folsom Dam per second, you at the same time had a drought emergency still in effect because we don't have adequate water storage to capture the water when it comes. We don't have the ability to level out these cycles of wetness and dryness that are utterly predictable in California. And on top of that, we have crazy policies that divert water to the ocean for the most absurd of reasons. Well, the good news is we're starting to see some of this diversion of water come to an end, and we have secured federal funding for the most significant water project in California in decades, Sites Reservoir, which is now well on its way to substantially expanding water storage in California, and we are also taking steps to raise the level of Shasta Dam to provide additional water storage there as well. Number 9, when it comes to the catastrophic wildfires, which have afflicted my district in searing and tragic ways, and which the whole world saw on tragic display in Los Angeles at the beginning of this year. We know that California's failures to adequately manage its forests has precipitated many of these catastrophic fires, in addition to several other policy failures. Well, the good news is we are restoring common sense when it comes to forest management. We just passed on a bipartisan basis a couple months ago the Fix Our Forests Act, which will streamline the sort of environmental regulations that stop us from appropriately managing our forests. It passed the House with bipartisan support, and I expect to see it pass the United States Senate very soon. And finally, when it comes to California's election system, which is much more chaotic than any other state in the country, where we take a month just to count votes so the entire country is waiting for California to finish a process that takes everyone else a matter of hours or a matter of a few days. We have passed in the House of Representatives the SAVE Act, which advances a common sense proposition that you should provide proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. A recent survey showed that 72% of California's Democrats, Republicans, and independents support this common sense policy. In addition, I've introduced the Election Results Accountability Act, saying that California has to count its votes in a timely manner. And finally, I do believe that Californians will have a chance in the next election to vote on a proposition to establish voter ID in California elections. So on each of these fronts, we have made significant progress, and it is improving the quality of life for Californians. And once again, this is a concern for all Americans, because by making California sane again, we will help to bring about and continue this golden age in this country and chart a future that truly lives up to the founding ideals of our country. California has always been at the leading edge of the American dream, and when California thrives, the rest of the country does as well. Mr. Speaker, I want to take a moment to respond to the statement put out by California's High-Speed Rail Authority in response to the audit from the Department of Transportation that came out yesterday. Now, this audit began a few months ago. I joined Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy in Los Angeles to announce the investigation into California's 17-year-long failure to build anything despite receiving massive funding at the state and federal level. The audit specifically looked at what happened to the $4 billion in federal funds that were provided through recent grants. And the result of the audit showed that the state is woefully out of compliance, that it has built nothing, and there is no viable path forward for the project, and therefore those grants can now be terminated. Now, the High-Speed Rail Authority came out with this statement, which frankly defies belief. It's that the authority strongly disagrees with the Federal Rail Administration's conclusions, which are misguided and do not reflect the substantial progress made to deliver high-speed rail in California. Mr. Speaker, I almost cannot believe those words. The substantial progress to deliver high-speed rail in California. What progress has been made, let alone substantial progress? There literally has not been any track laid in 17 years. There has not been one passenger in 17 years. There have been 5 CEOs of the Rail Authority, by the way. So the CEOs of the Rail Authority outnumber the passengers 5-0. $17 billion has been spent already, and literally nothing has been built. By the way, the initial projection was this thing's going to be done in 2020. That's what we were told when it was proposed in 2008. By the year 2020, you will have a high-speed rail system. You could hop on it in Los Angeles. It'll take you swiftly to San Francisco. Wouldn't that be nice? Well, we're now in the year 2025, and nothing has been built. We're 5 years past the deadline for the whole thing to be done. Nothing has been built, and the Rail Authority has the audacity to claim that substantial progress has been made. By the way, we were also told that by the year 2030, we would have 100 million riders per year. 100 million. We now know for a fact that the number of riders per year by the year 23 will be 100 million less than forecast.